So what were some of those things that you found or believed or have come to find to be the most effective that helped your son overcome cancer?
At any given time, he was on, I'd say, at least 50 different supplements. And that's, there are different schools of thought that say that's overkill and you don't need all that. And some of that's even going to be maybe cross, working against each other and that sort of thing. And we did do our best to work with naturopathic oncologists and integrative doctors who do specialize in supplements. And, it's just that we kept on saying, well, what if we had this? 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 And, most of the time they'd say, okay, you can do that.
What were some of those supplements that you were using?
Early on, it was a lot of the classics, I guess you could say. We were doing, in addition to like the intravenous vitamin C, I wanted to make sure he was getting a good whole food vitamin C supplement to get all the cofactors, because sodium ascorbate isn't necessarily, there's more to vitamin C than just the ascorbate. I should say ascorbic acid, but gets delivered in sodium ascorbate. We were on like different, all the different botanical supplements between, curcumin, resveratrol, green tea extract, all those guys. We were doing a lot of aloe arborescens at the time. Healing was a big one that goes, flies under the radar a lot. I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with it, but it's Healan 951. It's HAELAN, I believe. And that is it's a fermented soy product that has, I think, something crazy like 50 pounds worth of soybeans in each bottle. But, obviously then I thought soy was bad for cancer, but the main thing in there is genistein. And you look up genistein in combination with cancer on PubMed, and you might get even more studies than, well, probably not more than curcumin, but close. It's, there's really compelling research on genistein. And it's combined with, that's not the only flavonoid in there. There's a few other prominent ones, but yeah, there's a ton of research on that product in combination with pretty much, every type of cancer, even conventional side effect mitigation, all that good stuff. So we were giving a lot of that. I'm trying to think of, stuff that might not be as well known. Bee propolis is another one that that hasn't really made the blogosphere, so to speak. But I wrote an article on it because I thought it needed to be written. There's a ton of research on bee propolis out there in cancer. We were giving them a lot of that. The Natura Nectar brand is what we were using there. I don't know, like what, Life One, that liposomal product that has quite a few different anti-cancer compounds in it. A lot of different, blends like that. There's a product called Calibrate that we really like. It's really high on sulforaphane is the big thing, which is another thing that's starting to get a lot of good attention for cancer. But it's got, I don't know, sulforaphane's the main thing, but then it's got, curcumin, mushrooms, and that's another one. We were doing a whole ton of different medicinal mushrooms, kind of rotating through different blends and then different single mushroom products and all that. It was poly-MVA. We were doing a lot of that. It became like what I was starting to get into earlier, and now that I've just kind of listed off this big slew of supplements, it was more of like, once we got our feet under us and got out of just the throwing everything up against the wall phase, it was okay, like, what are all these different products doing? And it became more of putting everything into kind of individual categories or buckets, so to speak. So it's like, we know we want the direct anti-cancer action of causing apoptosis or hitting the right epigenetic triggers to turn on cancer or tumor suppressor genes and turn off oncogenes, that sort of thing. So kind of put that whole thing in one bucket. We want the immune system to be continually, modulated to its proper state. So, put all those immune products in another bucket. We want the metabolism, mitochondria to be as functioning high as we can. So put all those products in another bucket. And then it became kind of this thing where it's, okay, we've got all of these different categories and then all of our favorite products, within each category. And so now it's more of a system where we're rotating through all of these products within each category. One, because you can't afford to do them all at once. And then two, it's not even good to just stay on the same supplement, indefinitely, because then, cancer is smart, it finds a way around it and that sort of thing. So it's, yeah, the system we kind of worked out was nice in the fact that, we were continually rotating through all this stuff and then not spending a zillion dollars on supplements, maybe only $1 billion. But yeah. And that's just, plug for the website, the sternmethod.com, and the what we use pages. I've done my best to kind of recreate that mess that I just described. That's mostly in my head, like, in written form, where you can actually kind of see what I'm talking about. So.
And now you've been sharing this through your website, the Stern Method, through your summits, through a lot of the work you're doing. I think that's incredible, and appreciate you for stepping up and helping other people who, are experiencing similar circumstances, or want to prevent these circumstances the best that they can. So, talking about you have a summit called the AntiCancer Revolution. Tell me about that. So, what's the main focus? AntiCancer Revolution. What does that mean, and what are some of the things that are being shared on the summit?
I like to think it's a revolution against dogma, from both sides. The alternative, because even when you get to the holistic, and the holistic side of the fence on cancer treatment, there's still like the extreme alternative, all natural, all the way. I'm not going to step foot in a conventional establishment whatsoever. There's that side of the spectrum, and then there's more the integrative, working with conventional therapy, doing what's needed, at least from that perspective, when it's needed and in the best educated way possible, and that sort of thing. And those have been the two worlds that I have had my feet in from day one. And then I started going to these naturopathic oncologist conferences where they're talking about all that alternative stuff too, but then they're also talking about the best ways to naturally mitigate chemo side effects and reduce toxicity, protect from toxicity, even make conventional treatment more efficacious, different dosing strategies than what you hear in the hospital, be it low dose or even, just different timings, and a lot of interesting stuff brought up there. So I can't, I don't remember how many times like fasting got brought up as something that's not only therapeutic for cancer in and of itself, but can protect healthy cells from chemotherapy while making cancer cells more vulnerable, all this stuff. And it's, quite similar to the work you're doing, Nathan, is, like those two sides of the spectrum tend to stay on opposite sides of the spectrum. Like a lot of those people, especially the integrative people, don't necessarily want to be seen with the in the same room with the alternative people, so to speak. So it was a challenge getting all of them together. But I think because of, us, my wife and I, and our mission and our cause and our story and what we're doing, that maybe quite a few of them are willing to step outside of their comfort zone. So it's kind of those two different worlds in one summit. And I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. There's a lot of really good information from a very diverse set of perspectives on how to approach cancer.
I love it. I mean, that's why I'm really excited to be sharing this with our community as well, and sharing your summit, encouraging people to watch it, because that's the exact thing. One of the main things that inspired me to do the integrative perspective documentary film was because I saw this war happening between alternative and conventional, and I recognize that, like, why would we be fighting against each other if the main intention is to help people? If the main intention is to help people, why don't we learn how to work together? And then I found out years ago that there are people doing exactly that. It's called integrative medicine. And they say, hey, let's take the best of all worlds and use it for the intention of getting the best results to help people. And I think that's the approach, moving forward, I think that's the future of medicine. It's looking at it from a holistic, integrative perspective and saying, look, medical conventional treatment is not bad. They're not bad people. They care about you. They care about doing good things. Many of them are simply just not taught natural medicine. That's it. But when they learn about it, oftentimes they become an integrative doctor. They change what they do, and they change their approach. And I know you've met many, and I've met many who've done that. And so, learning as much as we can. I'll say it a million times. It's all about educating ourselves. It's learning as much as you can from the medical side of things, what's actually effective, as well as the natural side of things, what's going to be most effective, and then how do they work together and complement each other. So I love that you're putting on this summit focusing exactly on that, because people tuning in are going to learn so much from all sides of the conversation. And that's the approach I think we need moving forward. So couple of things. What are a couple key takeaways people can expect from the summit?
They all have their specialties, and it was neat to put them all together. And so, you get the best well-rounded perspective of all of these different things that I need to be covering, but it's not just this one thing. It's everything. And yeah, I mean, just, a lot of people aren't even aware that there's such thing as a naturopathic oncologist doctor, a naturopathic doctor who has chosen to specialize in cancer. That they that title tends to be more on the integrative, working with conventional medicine side of the fence. And if you are going through conventional treatment, there are these people that are literal experts in all of the different supplements that you can take in conjunction with all the different types, whether you're talking about radiation or all the different types of chemotherapy, or even immunotherapy, or the new checkpoint inhibitors, the targeted therapy. They can walk you through the best way to go about those. And and so I've got a lot of the folks on there that are the ones giving the keynote presentations at those conferences. It's a really diverse cast of characters on there. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, and that's key. Open-mindedness, diversity, and really expanding our plethora of knowledge in all these different areas. I mean, that's what it takes. Cancer's complex, but at the same time, it's also quite simple. It's complex and simple. It's a paradox, but I love that you've put together all these incredible people. We have a link for our audience tuning in. We have a link we'll send you. You'll see it next to this video where you can sign up for the summit for free. I encourage you to do that. If you're catching this later, after the summit, we'll have another link for you as well. You could sign up for future summits and or the summit recordings ongoing. So take a look for that as well. Definitely encourage you to check it out. Wrapping up, I have a final question for you. Looking back at the beginning of this journey, what would you have changed if you had to do it all over again? And pray to God you don't ever have to. But if you had to do it all over again, if anything, what are some key things you would have changed early on or done differently? I should say.
That's the big one is pretty easy for me to to spot, and that's from a caregiver perspective, self-care. I was just joking with you that before we started recording this that I haven't gotten a full night's sleep in probably since the 5 years since Ryder was diagnosed. First for the cancer, just trying to research all that I could, and then trying to make a business work on the side of a day job and all that. But that being said, there's a difference between not getting as much sleep as you could and still taking really good care of yourself, and like being really mentally well, and just like having a wellness attitude about you, versus what we were doing that first year was we always joke that we looked more like the cancer patients than Ryder did when we look at those pictures, because he was the one getting all of the juice and supplements and all that. And it was almost like this weird thing where, you know, and again, this is just, it's wrong. And it was us not doing as good of a job as we could early on. But, you know, this weird thing where like, if 1 ounce of effort went into ourselves that wasn't going into our kid, then that was something that we were like, you know, morally doing wrong. We were doing wrong by our kid. And so, you know, it was like me not shaving for weeks on end and barely eating anything. And it's not like we weren't eating bad food. We were still eating organic food, but just, you know, sparse and, you know, not the most nourishing stuff that we could have been eating, and all this stuff. So, you know, and we did come to that realization about maybe a little less than a year in, that we could be doing better by Ryder by taking care of ourselves.